So not long ago, the operators of the New York City bike share system released a whole bunch of really interesting open data on how people were using the bike share system in New York City. What I did was I took that information and I put it into civicdata.com. Civicdata.com is an open data portal that's operated by Excella. And if you go to civicdata.com, you can sign up and start using and adding data. If you go there, you'll see a data source for New York City bike share trip data. What I want to do is use this data to show you the civicdata.com data API. Now, since Civic Data is built on CKAN, it uses the exact same API that you can use with any CKAN instance to query data sets and actually query the data within a data set directly through the API. So let me just show you what I mean. The really interesting thing about the CKAN data API is it's got this option to actually pass in SQL queries. So you can, if you're comfortable using SQL, you can query your data that way. So for example, if I just do a simple count, this is the output of me calling the SQL API, passing in just a simple count of just the number of records in the, I think it's July 2013 data set. And you can see there's about 224,000 trips in that data set. If I get a little more sophisticated and I do a count based on trip duration, so if I want to count up everybody that's taken a trip of longer than 5 minutes, I can do it that way, and I have now just north of 187,000 trips, which is kind of interesting. But what I really want to do is start to get at the real heavy hitters here, the people that are using are basically clocking the longest trips in the New York City bike share. So I'm going to pass in a SQL query. I'm going to limit it to 2 results, which you see here. If I scroll all the way to the bottom, you can see it actually displays the SQL query that I'm sending in. So I'm just doing a straight select. I'm ordering it based on the trip duration, which is in seconds, and I'm limiting it to the 2 longest trips in July of 2013. So this gets kind of interesting. What I'd really like to do, since this gives me the freedom of running SQL against this data set without actually downloading all of the data, and there's a lot of it, which is a good thing, but it can be kind of cumbersome to work with if you're not used to it. This gives me the ability to actually run SQL against this data right through the civicdata.com API, which is really cool. What I want to do, though, is I want to get this information into a format that I can use to maybe reference in a blog post or a news article or something like that. So I'd like it in a CSV format so that I can actually pull it up into Google Docs and make it look pretty and then reference it in my story or my blog post. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually use the command line, and I'm going to use a tool called JQ. JQ is like the sed utility in Unix systems, but for JSON. And I will provide a link to this this gist here. But what's in here is a simple JQ recipe for pulling out information from the API that I just showed you on civicdata.com, and we're going to transform it into a CSV file. So actually, let me just run through part of this and show you what it's doing. I open up my shell and I drop in just using curl to call the API. I'm going to pass it through sed, which is this magical utility that will do all sorts of cleanup on suboptimally formatted data. I'm just going to remove some spaces from the JSON field names, and then I'm just going to use the power of JQ to turn this into some really pretty JSON. I'm going to show you the top 100. I'm going to pull out trip duration, the year that the person was born in, a 1 or a 2, I believe it is, that designates whether they're a male or a female, and then the name of the start and end station. So this is really cool. I got this coming out just by using a basic SQL query against the civicdata.com API. But I want to get a little fancier. I want to turn it into CSV, and I want to put it in a format that I can actually upload to a Google Doc. So if I just simply drop this simple JQ recipe into my terminal, this will actually pull directly from the civicdata.com API and transform into a CSV format that top 100. So this is the top 100 trips in duration in the New York City bike share system for July 2013. So that's really cool. Now what I want to do is I want to create my CSV file. The first thing I'm going to do is just put some nice column headers in. And now I'm going to take that same exact command that I just ran. I'm going to run it again, only I'm going to append, oops, the file that I just added my column headers to. Boom, I'm done. Now all I need to do is upload it into Google Docs. And if I do that, it looks like this. Nice, neat spreadsheet format so that I can actually start to make it look pretty. And if I want to reference it in a blog post or a news story, I can do that. I can share this with people so that they can see it. So one of the benefits, one of the many benefits of civicdata.com is that I have an API that I can run straight SQL against and begin to work easily and quickly with all sorts of really interesting data.